Okay, so what exactly are the objectives of this method of that is comprised by repetitive behavior of many people, and also, of course, this could also be transmitted electronically with all sorts of I would say tools of psychological suggestion and indoctrination and conditioning. Maybe a little later I will speak about what's the channels of influence, how is it actually done. But I mean, it's rather disgusting because it's, as you understand already, it's done by noises and by repetitive bombarding of the target with messages by all the people that are around him, and also by electronic means, and of course also by the various methods that I call, and you also call, haunted house. And I already spoken about it in the videos that I call Torture Compendium. But what is much more important to me now is not to discuss the various channels, but what are the objectives? What do they actually want to achieve with this method? And I mean, presumably, or in their sick minds, they can do they can do. They are like gods. I mean, they learned this method from various Soviet or ex-Soviet sources, and now presumably they can do anything. They can, according to their sick minds, they can have any kind of influence on any person that is under their boot, and they can presumably cause any human to do anything, or not only humans, robots as well, aliens, whatever, just to do anything that they want. That's their sick fantasy. But in reality, what kind of objectives are actually, you can actually commonly, are actually followed? What are their typical objectives? And this can be actually, there are three categories or three kind of objectives that they are more than 99% of the times, that's what they actually do. Because even though they think, they hold the belief that using the method you can do anything, you can exert your influence to any person, to do anything that you want. In reality, they always want one or more of three things. And this can, so the three categories are the following. And I will most of my emphasis will be on the third one, but let's go over all the three. For the first is just torture that is aimed at making a person commit suicide, or try to commit suicide, or try to or act violently towards another person. And this is done by extremely simple and disgusting actions. You all know about the drilling sound. You can just by watching the YouTube of this channel, you can, whatever I am, if it doesn't matter if it's in my mother's apartment or here in Tel Aviv in the hostel, it's so common to hear the drilling sound. Because it's it's so brutal and stupid, but that's how it is. Just use drill, probably not even real drills, because real drills are typically, you can't use them for more than a couple of minutes without them being burned. You need to stop, and maybe many times they do it to me for an hour continuously. So it's probably even many times just a recording. Yeah, this is extremely common, and you can just just by listening to the videos, you can see, you can take get a good example of the wonderful experience of this method, of being targeted to this method. Drills and sirens, it's all over the place all the time, and extremely common. And the idea is that you can actually drive a person crazy, and and in that way to hospitalize him in a mental institution, or send him to prison. This is extremely common, and of course it's rooted in very ancient practices. Like I mean, it's not something you don't need any tech for that. Like I mean, it's not high tech. It's like I mean, you just need to produce like annoying sound in high volumes. That's it. And so this is the first kind of objective. The second kind of objective relates to a theory, a related theory, a theory that is closely related to the method, even though it's not the method itself, but it's a very like a sister theory, which is the theory of hypnosis. And I'm certain that it's like that. I mean, the scientific like, I mean, I would say tenets of this theory are unfounded. But I'm not like a specialist in this area, and I think it's all rather I mean disgusting and like I'm certain that I mean the issue of hypnosis was not only I mean the interest I mean was I mean not only the intelligence services that practice the method which mostly was discussed like the Soviet intelligence, like the KGB. I mean, not only these kind of the KGB and of course the Shabak and the Mossad. Not only these kind of like, and of course the others that were influenced by the Soviet intelligence. Not only them were interested in the theory of hypnosis. The West was also, I mean, at least during the 1950s and the 1960s. It was all. I mean, it was also something that I mean, people in the West were actually interested in it. I mean, the CIA. I mean, and you know, the MI6 and like other like famous intelligence services. And because during this time, it was actually something that was like people find in like spiders found it interesting. And of course, they also as well. I mean, try to use supposedly this theory in their own like operations. And so hypnosis is not I wouldn't consider it like as a like as like inherently part of the method, but the method is closely related to the theory of hypnosis because it's a lot of what the practitioners of the method are trying to do is to achieve the objectives that presumably can be achieved using parts of the theory, which is it's an amalgamation of all sorts of like psychological theories that are mostly like outdated and were always kind of like shady and ridiculous with regards to hypnosis. So even though it's scientifically unfounded, and even though like other like intelligence services like in the West actually abandoned like the pursuit of like this course probably already during the 1960s or at most during the 1970s, according to my like estimation. I guess that I'm not sure if it's for the reason of like that it's inhumane or like anti-democratic, or just because it doesn't consistently work, and it was replaced like in the academic sphere. It was replaced by more like advanced like theories regarding the human mind and psychology. And today it's kind of like a lot of it is actually laughable. And for certain, and I've said it in the past, much of what people that actually believe in the theory of hypnosis, a lot of what they actually achieve is achieved by the use of violence. And I've spoken about it in the past, like many in the what I say the torture compendium videos. That they exert typically as I said I'll tell this metaphor again because I kind of liked it. It's a metaphor that I use. That it's like a puree, like a mashed potatoes that is served like in very fancy restaurants. So it is known that in very like in Michelin star restaurants when you are served like a puree, like a mashed potatoes, it's like 50% it's butter. Yeah, that's the way it is. Because that's how it's served, like in high class like restaurants. Like the fanciest puree is only 50% actually like salt and potatoes, and 50% butter. So that's like that's the kind of like influence that you get when you get the puree of hypnosis from like the practitioners of the method. So, and the butter is just violence. So it's like they presumably used all sorts for like hypnotic mechanism that are unfounded, and then they like throw all those triggers at you that supposedly should like activate your subconsciously like dormant hypnotic implanted state, where like supposedly when you hear the triggers or see the triggers, you need to like to be subjected to their command, or like to forget your own will, or to stop whatever you are doing. But they always execute the triggers with 50% violence, like all sort of violence. Like it's almost never like purely like hypnotics like you see in all sorts of like magician shows that are of course always are fake, or like they can be explained in other ways. But the way that they actually do it, like in the intelligence service of Israel, is that they just convey the messages with a hefty amount of all sort of like kind of violence. So you can never really say, if the hypnosis works or just the violence works, because violence works even without hypnosis. Violence is like a proven way to actually, exert your influence on other people long before anyone thought about the concept of hypnosis. I would say that it's predate hypnosis by quite a lot of years, the concept of violence. So you cannot really say, how much of it is actually like founded, proven by evidence. You can say, what is known that, first, that the intelligence services of the West, even though in the past they were also interested in this disgusting like material, they kind of like abandoned it like decades ago, and that also in the academic sphere, it's kind of like today it's like a curiosity show. It's like something that is not. It's pretty much laughable. Yes, I would say that yes. It's not true that I'm not saying that hypnosis was completely abandoned in the academic sphere and in the practice of psychology. There are still remnants of the, I would say, practice of hypnosis within the, I would say, respected academic world, and also like legitimate exercise of psychology. Of course, with the acceptance and the full disclosure of the people that are treated, and with their own like like to request, not like something that is done like that is forced on the person without their knowledge. And this is, and I'm not sure like how founded it is. I know that presumably it's used for like to get rid of like things like habits like smoking. It's for people that want to get rid of those habits. I don't know how much it works, like to what extent, but I do know that for certain it's only used like when they actually the people want to the request of the people that want to get rid of some kind of like behavior. But hypnosis as it exercises as part of the system, like as a like subconscious way to influence the person to completely abandon their will and to be subjected to someone influence by the usage of all sorts of like triggers that supposedly implemented on the subject without their knowledge, is something that is not dealt with today, like in the like not only today but for good number of decades, like in the academic world, like or in the respected practice of psychology. And although I would say it again, it's kind of like abandoned in the way, like in the intelligence services of the West, either by from like the reasons that are related to democracy, or just because they understood that it's kind of like that it was always stupid to begin with, and that it's like not something that like respected people are dealing with, even with this regard to question of morality or legality, just because it doesn't like consistently work, like it doesn't give you consistent results, like unless it's like served with 50% violence. But the intelligence services of the West can like they know how to like to serve you violence, even like they can just serve the dish of violence if they want, so they don't like need like a whole fancy charade of like hypnosis that is served with the violence traditionally. For the practitioners of the method. So this is the second objective, like the subjugation, the subjugation of a person through triggers that are mostly rooted in the outdated and certainly anti-democratic theory of hypnosis. Now the third objective is something that I want to speak about, like to elaborate on, because it is something very important. As like an introductory statement, we should speak a little bit about the how intelligence services that are practicing the method, specifically the Israeli intelligence, and also in the past, I have no idea like how, like what's the situation like in Russia after the collapse of communism. So I have no like presumption to speak about like the Russian Federation at all, because I know very little bit about the Russian Federation. I mean I read the news and the war in Ukraine, but I know very little about about society and like what's going on, and even about the economy. Like I know very little. So I don't want to speak about the Russian Federation because I don't know. I just don't know. I just don't know what's going on over there, and for certain I have no idea how the intelligence actually operates these days. I mean, not only these days, but since the 90s. Like it's completely out of my like sphere of knowledge. But certainly, what I want to say now about the Israeli intelligence was not invented by the Israeli intelligence, but it was certainly something that it was always integral to the method, which means that it was widespread in like the Soviet intelligence, and it fits fantastically well to Soviet psychology. So what I'm going to say now, I mean, is everyone would know even a little bit of like I mean, just even if you know very little about the school of psychology that was prevalent in the Soviet Union, and also the philosophy regarding like the human mind and the nature of humans, would understand that this is incredibly like it fits like a glove to a hand. What I'm going to say now to Soviet psychology and philosophy. So I would say that today, in the last couple of decades, it is very common in the modern discourse in the West, but not only in the West, but particularly in the West, like in the developed world. It's very common to speak about sexual orientation. It's so common that most people today think about this like term as something that is like completely like positivistic, like that it's like an empirical thing that is rooted in reality, just like that there are trees in reality, and that there are cats in reality, and that there are cars in reality, and there are like airplanes, and there are like cockroaches. So there is also like sexual orientation. It's like, yeah, of course, like a person like he has like a color complexion and height and weight and like shape. So also the person, he or she also got sexual orientation, and it's so much rooted in our culture that most people don't even think about it. Like that is like there is any question about like whether what is it? Is this even a thing? Like most people think that it's rooted in biology, even though there is zero evidence for it, and that you just born with it, and that you that we should accept this fact, like unless this person like shows like like is attracted, like wants to have sex with like animals or children, and then they are just criminals and we should hate them and like despise them and like put them in jail, and they are out of the discourse. But for all other like objects of attraction, it's just categorized like as sexual orientation, which is a property of the person, that they are born with it, and probably it's rooted in biology, even though there is zero evidence for it, and that that like a progressive person should just accept that fact, and of course should not discriminate a person due to their social orientation, and you will just accept it as a fact of life, like part of the natural world. And of course that it should not all sexual orientation are equally valid, and also they should be represented in the culture, like in cinema and TV, because part of the equality is like that we need to actually give those different orientation a representation, equal representation. Now, this theory is pushed by many strong political groups in the West for quite some time, and it's pushed very heavily by the intelligence services of the West and also the Israeli intelligence. Even though no one in the Israeli intelligence believe it at all, they think that this theory is completely wrong. By the way, they are not entirely wrong. I don't want to actually say here what I think on the matter, because it doesn't really matter for our context. I would say that this is in reality this is a very complicated issue, and I've addressed it in the past when I spoke about the issue of homosexuality, and I was never shy of speaking about homosexuality, because yes, I consider myself Protestant Christian, and I am not I'm not shying from addressing the very difficult issue. Many people think that nowadays this is the main point of conflict between modern society and religion, and I am not I'm not afraid to speak about it, and I have spoken about it, about my views that are pretty much as you can expect, traditional or conservative on the matter. And maybe I'll speak about it later, maybe even this week, because it's an interesting and important subject. And again, I'm not shying from discussing a difficult subject, but for our context, my opinion on the matter doesn't matter at all, because it's not. I do not. For this video, my intention is not to discuss reality or how I interpret reality and the morals that can be driven from this understanding of reality. I want to discuss the mentality of the Israeli intelligence and the like-minded people, and how this is manifested in the method, which again is 90% of what they do is this method. And views regarding human sexuality is integral to the method. It's very, very important. It's not just a side note. You cannot speak about the method without speaking about the intelligence, the people of the intelligence service of Israel and also of the Soviets, because this is very firmly a Soviet issue. This issue is integral to Soviet philosophy and psychology, and it was one. I mean, I don't know how many people today are actually they know about it, because in the past it was actually very important, and many people of the West knew about it and spoke about it, because it was one of the points of contentions between Soviet science and Western science, and so it was actually a major issue, both culturally and scientifically in the past. But I mean, since we are now more than 30 years that the Soviet Union does not exist, and I'm not certain. I don't know at all. What's going on in Russia today. I have just no idea. But even if they still hold some of the views that they inherited from the Soviet culture, it's not that famous, and they do not champion these views as it was done in the past. It's not very important part of their culture, because if it were, I would have known. But so I just don't know what's happening in Russia now. But certainly this was during the time of the Soviet Empire. It was very important tenet of their thinking, of their understanding of psychology and sexuality, and also philosophy of what is human, what exactly is a human being, and what are humans. So in very maybe I will oversimplify, but I need to oversimplify in order to advance here. Soviet psychology thought about humans as something that is completely, it's like clay, that the humans are like pieces of clay that you can do anything with it. Only you just need the right artist. If you have the right artist, give him this artist a piece of high quality clay, and he presumably can do anything with it, anything at all. I remember that during my high school years, my mathematics teachers, it was called, his name was Beckerman. I don't remember the first like his first name, but like a family name was Beckerman. He was like Ole Hadash, like I mean an immigrant from I don't know from where, but what we call Russia. It's not necessarily Russia. It could have been like Ukraine or Belarus. I don't know, but we call. I mean, in Israel, it's typical to just call these people Russians. I mean, like people like Jewish immigrants from like from one of the like former republics of the Soviet Union. I speak about like the late 90s, like when I was in high school, late 90s. So it was quite tough. I mean, as you could expect from like a former Soviet like mathematician that is now, I mean, a little bit demoted because I mean to like a high school teacher. I mean, because when he was younger, I understood that he had like aspirations in the academy, but he didn't like. But anyway, he eventually, I mean, he immigrated to Israel, and here he found like a job as a mathematics teacher in high school. And he taught us mathematics, and it was quite like it was very typical to how you can like actually imagine like ex-Soviet mathematics teacher, like tough and that doesn't like to that doesn't show him. He doesn't show emotions and like even though he wasn't that old. I mean, he was pretty young. So, but definitely, I mean, even though he wasn't old, maybe he was like, I guess, something like around 40. It was very obvious that, I mean, we didn't speak a lot with him about anything besides like mathematics, because he wasn't that kind of teacher that speaks to you about other things. But very rarely, on very rare occasions, I mean, we managed to speak with him. We actually liked him because he was kind of like, even though he was like tough, he was kind of like, I mean, it was very easy to see that he has a very good heart. It's very difficult to explain, but the fact that it's all of us, I mean, all the students actually, I mean, understood it and like interpreted the same way. So it's probably true. I mean, that he was a very like a gentle heart. So we try to, I mean, from time to time to try to to like convey him, like I mean, to let him speak, to time to make him speak about things that are not regarding mathematics, like other things. It was quite difficult, and it didn't happen a lot throughout all these years that he was our teacher. But very rarely it actually happened. That, I mean, he spoke about other stuff that are not exactly like mathematics. And it was very demonstratively, and when I was in high school, I already had some knowledge of the things that I actually speak about right now. So I understood it like even back in the day. It's not something that I understood in retrospect. And I understood it, perhaps unsurprisingly, but demonstratively, even though he was not old, he was quite young, he was like a very typical product of the Soviets thought. That, I mean, it was a fact that he grew up in Soviet, in the Soviet Empire, and he was educated and like in the Soviet Empire, and that's a fact. It's not like a conjecture, but it was also manifestly true by the little that he said of things that are not related to mathematics, that this guy is like yes, this is a Soviet product. I mean, for certain. And how can this be demonstrated? Even just one small story, just one anecdote is enough to actually demonstrate it. And so I remember that, like, I once spoke with him, like we had a conversation. Just, I mean, it was not all the students, like me and maybe another one or two students. So we spoke with him, and so the issue was, I mean, what kind of people can like study mathematics on what levels? Because he didn't teach the entire class. He taught on, I mean, in Israel, I mean, you can do like the Bagrut, like the final exams in high school, like in 3 levels of mathematics. Like it's called points, like 3 points, 4 points, and 5 points. It's like 3 levels of mathematics, of the high school mathematics that you can study. Of course, the best is 5, and I mean, and if you want to study like things that are, I mean, that are like medicine or computer science in a respected university, I mean, you better it's much easier to actually like be accepted to if you like you've done the 5 points. So I mean, so he only taught like I mean so I mean, so during mathematics lessons, I mean, the class was like separated to 3 parallel classes with 3 parallel teachers. So he only taught like those, I mean, they've done the 5 points, which were actually the minority, at least in our class. It wasn't the best school, like, in. I mean, that's true. What I can say. I mean, we weren't many. I mean, we were maybe like 8 students. That's it, or 7. So I discussed, like, I mean, why is it that there, I mean, it's so little of us, like, I mean, in the 5 points. You don't need to be a genius to do the 5 points. It's not like, I mean, the gifted children high school exam. I mean, it's not, don't, I mean, just say, don't imagine, like, you don't need to be particularly smart or something. It's, so, I mean, and it's very important if you want to actually get, like a very, like a respected degree in university. So, I mean, the fact that, I mean, it was a minority inside, like, I mean, the class, and I should just say that we had 2 parallel classes, like, of boys, and also 3 classes of girls. They were separate, boys and girls. So it was like, I mean, it was 8 out of like 60, because the 8 out of like the 2 parallel classes together. So it was maybe 7 or 8 out of 60 that they studied in the 5 points, and it wasn't many. And again, you don't need to be a genius to do the 5 points. So and it's really required for, like, I mean, for high, like, if you want like a good degree in like in at least in like in demanded course of study in university. So we spoke about, like, how is it that there are so few, and one of the things that he told me that. And I was like, I mean, maybe I raised the issue of intelligence, like IQ and things like that, and he told me that I mean, that this does not, like, I mean, have nothing to do with IQ, and he was dead serious about it. Like, we've seen that he actually believes it, that every person, like, can actually like, from his, like, at least like in his birth condition, like when he's born, he can, like, become the person that when he will be in high school he will actually, like, study in the 5 points, like in the higher like separation of mathematics. And not only that given the correct teacher and given the correct, like, educators, which might be theoretically almost impossible, but theoretically, if you have the correct teacher and the correct educators, you can take every human being, but you need to do it when they are born. You can take any human being when they are born, and you can match them with, theoretically, you can match them with the correct educators since they are born, and they will be professors of mathematics. Like, they will be distinguished minds in the field of mathematics, but it must be done from when they are born. Now, this is, of course, it's manifestly wrong, and I knew it. I mean, already when I was in high school, I knew that this guy is, like, he's bullshitting and he doesn't understand it. But I also understood that this is purely a Soviet thought. That this is genuine, like, this is OG Soviet, like, this is Soviet, this is Soviet, like, in the manifestation of Soviet thoughts, like, in front of your eyes. If you want to understand, I mean, if you want to understand what does it mean to be a Soviet person, but you only have, like, you want to do it, like, on one leg, as they said, like, the person that wanted asked, like, Hillel and Shammai, like, to teach them all the Torah on one leg. So if you want to be taught all the Torah, the Soviet Torah on one leg, that's it. It's the false belief that every person with the correct education can become a professor of mathematics. In many ways, these kind of beliefs were represented in the West during the 1950s by the psychological school of behaviorism. I don't remember what was his American proponent, but he was very famous, but I forgot his name. Sorry. And this has many implications. This had many implications on almost all everything that is almost all like schools of thoughts like during the 1950s and 1960s. It was a major point of contention between Soviet science and Western science. And Western science in that case, like in any other case that I know of, actually prevailed. And today, I mean, Soviet science is virtually gone. Like, I mean, it was actually deleted during the 1980s. And what was in the past was called American science today is just science. That's the way it is. I mean, I'm just like I'm not judgmental now. I'm just saying the facts. Like I'm telling you the facts. That's the facts. But this was so prevalent in the Soviet Union that you can actually find it in the thought of like immigrants from Russia to Israel, like during the late 90s, even if they were quite young. Like, I mean, they were maybe 40, something like that. Not much more than that. Why all that is very important? Because, and now we should discuss sexuality. The Israeli intelligence, as many other intelligence bodies in the West, they are formally, I mean, or like, not formally, like, I mean, behind the scenes, but they are proponents of the, I mean, implicitly, if not implicitly, biological understanding of sexual orientation. But none of them believe in it. None of them at all. Like, both their aliens and their, like, Homo sapienses, that, as you know, are many times, like, I mean, a lot of them are actually homosexuals and pedophiles. They do not believe in it at all. Like, almost all the Homo sapienses in the Israeli intelligence, like all the homosexuals and pedophiles, and I would say that perhaps 100% of their aliens actually believe that any person can have any sexual orientation, and that with the correct conditioning, any person can be a homosexual and pedophile. That's what all of them believe, and they do not only believe that, they are acting according to this belief. It's not just a belief, like a philosophical belief that, I mean, that is just right there hovering. No, it's both like a belief and a point in their agenda that carries like huge like implications of actually what they actually do with it. It's a belief that is imbued in their work, like in what they do, like in the discussing thing that they actually do, and especially within the method that I speak about. That's their belief. This is due to several reasons. One is the Soviet influence and the belief in the method. Second is because that's what they practice, and I should speak about it like in a minute. And third, because it's kind of like a compensation mechanism, because the alien females don't have any sex at all, and they are, surrounded by homosexual and pedophiles all the time. So they develop skewed belief about like human sexuality. They don't understand human sexuality, even though a lot of what they do is actually trying to influence human sexuality. They don't understand human sexuality. They themselves never have sex at all. They're like asexual, creatures. Even though, of course, they fantasize about it, but they only fantasize about it. They don't actually do any sex. And the people, like the Homo sapiens, that they're close to them, like they're all around them, both in their private life, and as you know, private life and work life are indistinguishable inside the intelligence of the people of the Israeli intelligence. They are all sexual perverts, and so they just believe that that's how humans are. That humans are in their heart all sexual perverts. And it's manifested in some of the Homo sapiens, but in other Homo sapiens it's not manifested, but it could be manifested if you just press the correct buttons. Now, for the Homo sapiens, this is, I would say that it's, according to my experience with speaking with them, and actually I spoke about it in the past in one of the videos, that, not all of them, believe it in to the same extent. And many of them, I mean, this is a complicated issue because it relates to how do they see themselves. Because many of them, and these are not, and like typically this is the worst kind of them. Many of them, they think that everyone is pedophile in their heart, and they can just be, they just need, I mean, the correct conditioning or like random or non-random like things to happen to them in order to actually exhibit these tendencies. These are typically the worst people, and they are the people that I mean they are the nastiest of the. I mean, this is all the bottom of the barrel, scum of the earth. But even within the scum of the earth, there is like most, like the most horrible scum of the earth, and these are typically these people. Now there are other types. There is another type which is also, it's less horrible, but it's also horrible, that can understand that treat, I mean, this whole issue of pervert sexual like behaviors as purely a medical issue. Like in their mind, this is just a disease, like a condition. Like, I mean, some people are born with asthma, some people are born with like all sorts of skin conditions. So it's like a condition. They have like a treatment, like a medical, like a treatment, and it's like nothing to speak about it too much. I mean, just just a treatment. Like, I mean, you're treated for their condition, and we shouldn't there is nothing like these people think that, I mean, conceptualization of such behaviors, even sorts of such behaviors as a sin, is completely like archaic and and reactionary even. They will think that this is a reactionary thought that is rooted probably in fundamentalist religion. People, they try to impose you to all sorts of false beliefs. That, I mean, that this is nothing to do, that there is nothing to do with, I mean, the concept of sin in itself is ridiculous, and there is no relation at all between sinful behaviors and sexual orientation or sexual behaviors, even the thought of sexual behaviors. And I mean, it's just a medical issue, This is also very prevalent inside internal intelligence, and it's a little bit less disgusting than the attitude that I've said, like outlined before, but it's also extremely disgusting, because the only way to actually deal with this problem in a way that will not be destructive to society is to understand this is a sin, and that I mean, you should accept the fact that you have the sin in you, and that you need to deal with it, that you to understand that you have this sin in you, and that you need to push it away. I mean, not only by taking medicine, but by taking obligation between you and God, or you and yourself if you want, but you need to meditate on it, to reflect on it, and to accept that you will not be sinful, that you will not act with in this sinful behavior. But this is another issue, and I don't want to. I mean, as I said, it's less important now to actually outline my own beliefs on the matter, and more to understand what do they believe and how do they act with accordance to their belief. So much of them actually believe that either that all people are like that, just I mean that they need the correct conditioning, or random I mean, yeah, it's a fact that, I mean, tremendous amount of them were actually abused by their fathers, when they are children, or by their teachers. I mean, that's a fact. And again, I'm not judging. It's not I mean, what I want now to do is not to judge all the intelligent people of the West, or I mean to judge Soviet thought. I want to just give you facts about the reality, to understand what's happening in Israel. And I understand. It is clear to me that, I mean, that many of the people that are part of the Israeli intelligence, that are that are homosexuals and pedophiles, many of them were actually abused as children. Maybe it's even the norm. I don't the great majority. I have no statistics, but yes, I understand it very well. So, I mean, you don't need to be a genius to understand that. And my intention now is not to judge them, even though they're scumbags. And I mean, the fact that they were abused by their parents or the teachers does not allow them to be the worst monsters on the face of the earth, and that's what they are. I mean, just to say it, I mean, it should be said very plainly. I mean, yeah, I'm very sorry that you were molested by your father or teacher, but this does not give you the right to be a monster. I mean, you are a monster. Stop being a monster. But yes, many of them were abused, and many of them think that just such, I mean, all sort of like conditioning, like abuse, like for them it was just abuse of their own parents and teachers, but I mean, or presumably other type of conditioning could make any person like a homosexual or pedophile. And this is extremely, you can hear the scumbags outside, they have things to say. They always have things to say. I mean, their mouth is never shut. It's never shut. This is the problem of humans. Hybris, ego, mouth. They will speak. They will always speak. Let's continue. Humans and their mouths. Of course, there is no place in earth with a mouth like as big as the mouth in Israel, but all other humans as well have this problem with the mouth. Let's continue. So either they think that all humans are like, I mean, all males at least are like, I mean, pedophiles and homosexuals like in potential, just it needs to be unlocked by certain like conditional circumstances. Or another thing is that they think it's that like a disease, like, and that it should be like treated only medically and never speak about it again, like things like that. Now, how is this related to the method? Unfortunately, it is strongly related to the method. I mean, this is, as I said and I said again, this is not such a side issue or like, I mean, an anecdote. This is central to the practitioners of the method and central to what the Israeli intelligence and specifically the Shabak are doing. It is central to what they are doing. Because they believe, and for certain this was inherited from Soviet intelligence, that any person could be driven to be homosexual and pedophile. That's their belief, but it's not only their belief. It's their agenda. And a huge part of what they do inside the Palestinian territory is try to incite homosexuality and pedophilia, especially in their targets, which are many, and that are many. That's what they do. It's a huge chunk of what they do. And if they succeed in inciting a target to rape their children or to rape the little children of like their neighbors, they view it as a great success. They, of course, everything is wired, everything is like coming in on camera, and if they see in their camera, if these aliens, these Venusian aliens and their homosexual and pedophile male Homo sapiens partners that are so common in the Shabak, if they see like Palestinian dissidents in whatever, Ramallah, whatever, that if they can watch him on camera, like raping his own little child or child like that is like near him, for them it's like a great day in the office. This is reality. This is reality. This is reality. This is the Shabak. This is reality. That's what they do. This is a huge part of, it's not a side quest. It's not like a little anecdote. It's a huge part of what they do in the Palestinian territories. A huge part of what they do is that. And there is no great success from their point of view, like seeing in their cameras, like a Palestinian dissident rapes a child. They do not care at all about the child or any other child. They do not care about them at all. For them, it's a great day in the office. They don't even think about anything. I mean, morality is not a question even. They don't even think about it at all. This is reality. This is reality for many years, and it's reality today, 2023. It's not science fiction. It's not horror. It's reality. It's reality. I mean, it's horror, of course, but I mean, it's not fantastic horror. It's horror that takes place in reality. Right now. This is a huge part of what they do. Okay, so this video is already quite long. Maybe I will address the issue of, the actual practice of the method. Like as I said before, I mean, it's comprised of all sorts of like noises and messages and the 100-house effects. But and I've addressed several of these issues in the past. But maybe I will elaborate about it a little more. What was important to me is to say very loudly, I mean, what are the objectives? It's more important than, I mean, what actually they do. But these are their objectives. It's a fact. That is a fact. This is life. This is life in Israel and Palestinian territories right now.